Hello everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Saturdays with Dad. Today we're going to be doing a ranking video. I don't think we've done a ranking video with you yet, have we?
Nope.
And you can probably guess, because you've read the title of the video, on what we're ranking.
Yes. I noticed a comment on your last video, Neve, for bloke. You said I'm obsessed with the Grateful Dead. And probably not incorrect, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a very eclectic taste, as I think you now know, but they are very, very personal and special to me. I saw them twice only, I'm afraid. Once as a 16-year-old at the Empire Pool, Wembley, in April 72, and once as an 18-year-old at the Alexandra Palace that was in September 1974. They, to me, are my benchmark band, the go-to band. I love their music. I love the eclectic way they do music, whether it's psychedelic rock, whether it's country, whether it's progressive rock, whether it's just rock, or whether it's reggae or things like that. I mean, they're just great. And I think in Jerry Garcia, who is my hero, excuse me just one second, who looks at me when I work. There we go. There's Jerry. They have one of the finest guitarists of all time. And if he is good, I would put Phil Lesh as a bass guitarist in that bracket as well. Because you've got Bobby Weir playing rhythm, and you've got really two lead guitars in the form of Jerry Garcia, obviously, and Phil Lesh. Phil Lesh's bass is just unreal. But I'm rambling now. So
we're going to do a different format of video today in terms of my ranking videos, just to maybe make it a bit more interesting. So I'm going to be screen recording my computer screen, and we're going to be using the tier list website, if you know it, the one where you rank from S down to whatever. Hopefully I sync this all up very well and it is enjoyable for you guys, so I think we can begin. Okay, so hopefully this is working now. We've got the computer screen up in front of me here. So we can just start with the first album right here. So where would you rank this, Dad? So S being 10 out of 10, perfect album. A, B and C, well, A would be just underneath very good, and B and C are like okay, and then D is like no. So where would you put the first album then?
First album, I'd probably put something in the middle, really, B, which would be because it's very raw. It's like a band coming out, exploring its first first year or so, when before they were the Warlocks. There's some good stuff on it. I've got to be honest that, in the ranks of great Grateful Dead albums, this wouldn't rank so highly, but nevertheless, good start.
Like the start of the journey, would you say?
Yeah, great start of the journey.
Next one?
Certainly B, or A, sorry. So they upped it a notch with the Anthem of the Sun album. It has two of my favourite tracks of theirs on it. I mean, I just love Alligator. I mean, that's just such a great track, a great song, and just really does rock. And I prefer the live version on that, but that is a great number. And so, yeah, Anthem of the Sun, I'll probably give an A. Certainly, I'll put the same for that in A as well, because it has a studio version of China Cat Sunflower, which just is great. Dupree Diamonds Blues. There's some really good numbers. And this was the band, to me, creating the studio work of music that was going to be later interpreted as a live thing, certainly China Cat Sunflower was the Fare Thee Well concerts. What was the first number? China Cat Sunflower and I Know You Rider. So I would definitely put that fairly high. I love Oxymoxo. I think it's an underrated album. I think it's very, very good indeed.
I have included some live albums in here, not a lot, but
because we could be here all day.
Yeah, sifting through bootlegs and all that. But I've put the ones that are
mainstream,
the most well-known ones. So starting with the first live album we've got here.
Oh, go straight to the top of the class.
So
please just go straight to the top of the class. This was the album that first started me on my Grateful Dead journey when I was at school, and one of the guys had a copy of it, and I thought, this sounds unbelievable. Well, what can I say? The usual sort of thing, the 11, Death Don't Have No Mercy. It's just got everything encapsulated by the wonderment that is Dark Star. I mean, Dark Star to me is incomparable when it comes to just jam music. It's just the rambling musical genius journey of this band, and it is so good. Lost a bit when Tom Constantine left, because I really loved him. His keyboard work in that was just unbelievable. It really is. St. Stephen on this is fantastic. It's just an absolutely Goliath of an album. And, you know, as I say, Dark Star, I have to say one thing. The bass on that is just a... Oh, just Phil Lesh. Studio version's not that long.
Is it under 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'd say it's around like 4.5, 5 minutes. But
they stretched it.
And they stretched it to about 23 minutes or something of utter genius.
Very cool.
Top of the class, fantastic. What's that? S without
S
any
tier.
doubt.
So
if there was an
perfect album.
If there was an S plus, it would go into S plus.
Okay. So, moving back to the studio, moving into the 70s now, I think.
Yes, just in 1970, yeah.
So, first one, Ewan?
Or Workingman's Dead.
Where would you place that?
Workingman's Dead, I would say B. And the reason why I put that in B, because there aren't as many full tracks on that I like as much. But, I mean, B is a high grade. If this album had the tracks on the standard, to me, of Uncle John's Band, Dire Wolf, Casey Jones, and Cumberland Blues, then I would have put them straight to the top of the class. But, you know, I have to be sort of critical here, and there are a couple of things that I didn't like so much on that. So I'll put that certainly in B, but I mean the thing is, that is a high recommendation.
And probably their most well-known record.
Coming up. Again, that will have to go to S. I'm sorry, it just has to go to S. American Beauty, I mean, I noticed that Pete Pardo, Sea of Tranquility, did a recent video of Americana, probably because of the 4th of July and everything like that. As somebody from the UK, nothing sums up, other than the Beach Boys, Americana than this one album. This is so wonderful. It's got the great numbers, Sugar Magnolia, Truckin'. I mean, the band, the track Trucking has about 8 different American cities in it. It's a massive Americana. It's got lovely stuff. Candyman is good, you know. Box of Rain, Ripple. I mean, man, Ripple is just one of the most beautiful, beautiful songs.
That's one that Young likes a lot, isn't it?
Oh, he loves that. But it's a great, great song.
It is.
And of course, Attics of My Life, which is wonderful. Again, I think that actually ended the Fare Thee Well concerts. So American Beauty, one of the great American studio albums.
Okay, moving to another live album here.
This is the Skull and Roses, isn't it? It was called another name, but obviously I can't pronounce it on on
If
YouTube.
you know, you know.
If you know, you know exactly, Neve.
So where would you rank this one?
Oh, that one. If there was a category between S and A,
You put it there.
I'd put it there. I can't keep dishing out S's because it was just I put it in.
S's are reserved for.
This is a reserve for
10 out
total
of 10
genius.
albums.
Yeah. Oh, certainly A.
Okay, there we go.
A means to me almost touching the
almost
celestial heaven, right?
It's almost there.
So this is, as I say, I'm wearing a T-shirt now, 50th anniversary. I love this album. I suppose in a funny sort of way, this is the album that really kick-started my love of the Dead. One of their great live numbers. And they literally hit it out in the park when they played at the Ali Pali. Bertha. Oh man, what a song!
That was the only song I had by them on an iPod that I had years ago.
Yeah,
and I used to listen to it all the time.
It's just Bertha,
It's great.
and you know you hear his guitar when into a rainstorm, and you just hear this guitar, and it's just wonderful. And you know the drumming is great. The drumming on this album, obviously after Mickey Hart had a brief hiatus from the band. Well, Billy Kreutzmann, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I think probably my favourite song with Pigpen on it, Big Boss Man. I love Wolf Rat. The other one, the extended version of the other one, which is great, playing in the band. You know, their version of me and Bobby McGee sends shivers down my spine on that album. But I have to say that their version of Johnny Be Good, although great, obviously, they do it very well. You know, for me, the greatest version of Johnny Be Good is the one on Hendrix in the West. He just assassinates it. But as I say, Celestial, in its own way, wonderful album. So that's the Skull and Roses album.
And another live album coming up. We've got a triple album here.
It has to go A.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's not S, I'm gonna put it in S. I've now upped it from A to S just on the simple thing that part of the recording was at the Empire Pool, Wembley, in early April, which I was at. And so that's an even more personal thing. But musically, it would probably be A. But
with your attachment
to it. But with attachment to it, I have to up it. Sugar Magnolia, live version, what can we say?
That is very good.
China Cat Front, Sunflower, I Know You Rider, what can we say? There's the live trucking, things like He's Gone, It Hurts Me Too, Tennessee Jed, what a great song. It's just, again, pure Americana at its absolute finest. And the only reason for me taking away my personal attachment to this album that I would have made it an A is because I think it's basically almost impossible to give a triple album
What, an S?
an S.
Well, a lot of people say that about double albums as well.
Yeah,
Because
well.
you have to, when you do double or triple albums, you have to nail it for it to be very good. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you run the risk of it being too long and drawn out, boring, all that kind of, too much filler, all that kind of stuff. That's what you kind of risk when you make double or triple albums.
So that's the Europe 72 album. We're now coming into another album, but back to the studio again. And this is The Wake of the Flood. And I would put The Wake of the Flood in B.
I would personally put it higher. But...
You're probably pretty high because it's more progressive rock. This is when the Dead started looking at what was happening in Britain with the progressive rock movement, and they wanted a slice of the action. The Weather Report suite is decidedly prog, which I'm needs. There's some great songs on this album. I mean, really great songs. Row Jimmy and one of my favourite Dead songs. And when they play it live, you know, the tears come down and everything's stellar blue. It's just a marvellous, in fact, put it A, please. Let's put it A. I can't help it. I just love this band so much. And, you know, whereas it's not, to me, what we would call in the category of the American Beauty, Europe 72, or particularly the Goliath, that is that first live album. This Wake of the Flood is a great album, and underrated as well, as is, of course, the next one. Well, not so much this one, but I would definitely put that one in B.
This one?
Yeah.
There we go.
So this one here is from the Mars Hotel. When I saw them at the Alley Pally, that was they played a lot of stuff from the Mars Hotel. Ship of Fools, my favourite song on the album, that's great. Scarlet Begonias, just bubbling under. Not such a big fan of things like US Blues, but, you know, it's good.
That's why it's a B then.
I think
it's still good, but there's stuff that's weak.
There's stuff that's not as good on that, and there's some good stuff, but, you know, I wouldn't put it as high as that, the others, although they reverted back to the kind of, well, I think Wake of the Flood didn't do that too well, and they thought they'd then go back and try and recreate the genius that was American Beauty, and it just kind of didn't work really, but anyway, such is life. So from the Mars Hotel.
Next one.
Blues for Allah. I put Blues for Allah probably in B as well. Slipknot, Help on the Way. The extensive jazz progressive rock jam on the other side, something I like, but it's much more down Neve's path, really. I mean, extreme. I mean, this is the album when Mickey Hart came back into the band, and you can hear it because he's such a wonderful percussionist. King Solomon's Marbles, I love. That's almost Santana-esque sound. Slipknot, Help on the Way, absolutely nailed it. It's another great album. And, you know, on another day, probably I would slip it in at A, because it's, to me, that good an album. But
if you were brutal?
I have to be brutal. You know, there's a Bobby Weir song on that, which I'm not such a big fan of, which is The Music Never Stopped. I think he was trying to recreate that sort of stuff, not as well. You know, like the One More Saturday Night, which was great on the Skull and Roses album. But, you know, as I say, the rest of it, King Solomon's Marbles, oh, that's great.
Okay, and on to my personal favourite of the discography.
Yeah.
Where would you put it?
I would have to put that at A. They then went back and into the studio and made what possibly is their most progressive rock album. A lot of it was recorded by the London, the orchestral work was done in London and everything. And I think it just, basically Grateful Dead Records and Round Records had gone bankrupt, and Arista picked up their contract and everything, and they pushed them to do a progressive rock album, and they just said, right, okay, we'll go out and we'll knock it out of the park. The Terrapin Station Suite it could have been, you know, it could have been something like Van de Graaff Generator or something like that. It is ultimate progressive rock, it really is. And if it was just that side, it would go into S.
Like the beginning.
Oh yes, the guitar like diddle-ding and all, but you know, I'm not such a big fan. I mean, they do a version of Dancing in the Street. Why? When Ike and Tina Turner do it much better. There's some other stuff on the first side. Estimated Profit. Now that is a great song.
Yes.
Really is a great song. But it just, for me, what pushes it forward the way it does over Blues for Allah is that Terrapin Station Suite. It's just wonderful. And you can hear Phil Letcher's music genius behind it. It's just wonderful. And so that's Terrapin Station.
Right, next one here.
C, please. Not a big fan of this album. You know, it's the Dead trying to be sort of funky, funk sort of thing, but, you know, pretty good at it. I mean, there are two standout tracks on that, which is the title tracks, Shakedown Street, and of course, Fire on the Mountain, which I love that song. But overall, not such a big fan of that. I mean, the Dead were now coming out of the 70s and into the 80s, and you know what we've seen and what we've put forward earlier has been, to me, it's my taste, what I like about the Dead.
Coming into the first 80s lot, isn't it?
Yeah, this is Go to Heaven, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't give an album with Althea on it, bottom mark, but it will go in with Shakedown Street.
Did that one song save it for you?
It would probably be the album I least like of the Dead, but as I say, it's saved from bottom place in my view because of the wonderfulness which is Althea. I mean, this is the Dead. I mean, look at the album cover. All their album covers are so wonderful, and they come out with that. They've done the whole lads up. They're all done like Sonny Crockett and Tibbs in Miami Vice. It's all 80s rubbish. It's just like, you know, when they get Emerson, Lake and Palmer on Love Beach, or, you know, Genesis, you know, they've all got the jackets with the sleeve rolled up and everything like that. No, stop it, you know.
Trendy.
And of course they got the wind machine and Jerry's long hair going backwards. And I said that would probably be in the bottom for me, but for Althea.
Next one. Is this a studio album as well, isn't it?
Yeah, In the Dark.
Where would you put that?
In the Dark, probably the same as the others. Not such a big 1980s Dead, 1980s everything of great bands that I liked in the 60s and 70s. I'm not a big fan of. You know, obviously the A&R guys trying to push these guys who are such superb musicians into the video generation, which is just, well, I won't like to say what I think. And of course, but this album does have the one single that did actually incredibly. I think it even charted in this country.
Really?
But it got to number one in the US singles chart, Touch of Grey. And that's a lovely song. It is. It's a great single. But
the album?
It's not the Dead.
It's not
you. You know, Touch of Grey is a great song, but you know, when you consider what's come before it, you know, Ripple, Sugar Magnolia, you know, Stella Blue, songs like that, it to me, and I'm not trying to be a Luddite here, it doesn't hold a candle, you know, but it is a good song, and for Touch of Grey, I put it off the bottom.
Coming up to the last couple of albums here. What's this next one here?
Reckoning, I think it's called.
And is this a live album?
The last two are live albums, yeah.
Okay, so what about this first one then?
That will probably go with the others as well.
Where?
On C. There's some good stuff on this. They do a version of Cassidy, which is a Bob Weir song on the Bob Weir, Ace Weir album, the first solo album, which is great, about Neil Cassidy. Yeah, it's good. There are a lot of albums that came out around these times and bootleg recordings now with modern technology that are a lot better. But, you know, it's the Dead live. What's bad about that? But the Dead live and Skull and Roses, I'm sorry, again, doesn't hold a candle. But it's good in its own way. Having said that, though, Without a Net, I would put into B.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. There is a version, I think, of one of the tracks, which is on Shakedown Street, Fire in the Mountain, which I think it's the best version. And I think altogether, and this is the Dead coming into the 90s now, 89, 90.
Guitar music was coming back.
And sort of like the stupidity of what went before, and now sort of slightly being shelved. And I think that this, Without a Net, was better. It's a much better crafted album. The band were going back to doing what they do well. And you know, the Dead, I mean, even the last album which they did before Jerry died was a sort of like a comeback, and you know, I just really liked it. I mean, it's to me probably their best live album. Birdsong, I love Birdsong. That's a good version of that. Because they do another version of China Cat Sunflower Dash, I Know You Rider, which is wonderful. Not in Europe 72 class, but still very good. Another Weir song, which I love from his first album, Looks Like Rain. I love that song. It's very good. But as I say, Far on the Mountain, I think Far on the Mountain is on this album. Oh no, it's not. I tell you what is good though, their version of Dear Mr. Fantasy, the track. Their version of Dear Mr. Fantasy on that is wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
So there's the list. Let us know what you think of our list, and you know, let us know your own. I will post a picture of this on Twitter later so that all the lovely folks on Twitter will see it. So a couple of things to say. If you are still not familiar, I mentioned it in my last video, I have got my very own merchandise now, my very own Prog Nerd merchandise. That's all in the description down below. All my social media is down below, and of course the Discogs Store Movie Records down in the description. And I don't have any announcements as of now that are up and coming. Do you have anything to say?
No, not really. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I haven't bored the pants off you, but you know, like I do when it comes to this group, I do tend to wax lyrical, and because I love them so much. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's been a pleasure to listen to, and I hope for people who aren't or don't know about the Grateful Dead get something out of it.
Oh yeah.
Because they're a great band and they're worth really checking out. If you like that kind of sort of stuff, and
if you like jam music.
Oh yeah, without any doubt. And to be honest, if you like sort of progressive, well, just if you like music, really.
See you guys on Monday, and you'll see Dad probably some point next week. If not during the week, it'll be on Saturday.
Yeah. So all it leaves us to do is wish you a very pleasant week.
And if you're watching the football tomorrow, let's hope that
I hope England win. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. I hope they win, but I don't know how much the Italy are a good side.
The Italians are good.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. Bye-bye.
Bye.